Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. So, the Democrats' bigotry of low expectations rears its ugly head again in Minneapolis. That's right. Who would have thought that that Democrat politicians would believe that black and brown people couldn't couldn't seek out information, that they had to be spoon-fed information pushed forward by the city through social media influencers, because apparently that's the only way that communities of color could be educated, is if the government pays a famous person to tell them. How messed up is that? But you know what? It's 2021. Anything is possible, friends. Let's see what the Hill is reporting. Minneapolis plans to hire local social media influencers to help spread the city's message and try to dispel misinformation during the upcoming trial for Derek Chauvin, the former police officer charged with the killing of George Floyd last year. Separately, the Minneapolis City Council voted Friday to support a $1.18 million joint information system plan focused on timely and relevant communication with the community during periods of heightened tension. Essentially, when people lose their minds and start fiery but mostly peaceful protests. The six influencers, who will have a large local following and be considered trusted messengers, will send city generated and approved messages. Under the approved proposal, each of the influencers would be paid $2,000, a city spokesperson said in a statement. So I want to know, is it $2,000 a post? Is it $2,000 a week, or $2,000 a month, or just $2,000? Because if it was $2,000, I would be like, no thanks, bro. I got better things to do with my time than deal with social media, especially on your behalf if you have these millions of dollars that you're not sharing with me. It's going to be interesting, because it's also interesting to note that a lot of these influencers won't fact check what they're being told from the city. So they're basically the mouthpiece for the Ministry of Truth of Minneapolis. And if you pay these people enough money, they're not going to have any principles. They're not going to have any moral standing. They don't care, because, hey, I got paid $2,000 to say that this was an act of X, Y, or Z, or this is actually what's happening. Or, friends, it's not actually a riot. It's a fiery but peaceful protest. Everybody just join in on the fun. If you get paid $2,000, it really doesn't matter, because you'll say whatever you got to say if you're making $2,000 a tweet. And that's all I'm trying to say. The goal is to increase information, or increase access to information, to communities that do not typically follow mainstream news sources or city communication channels, and or who do not consume information in English, the city spokesperson said in a statement. It's also an opportunity to create more two-way communication between the city and communities. So again, the bigotry of low expectations rearing its ugly head. We don't believe black and brown people watch the news. We don't believe black and brown people listen to the messages that we believe to be truth. So we will hire a bunch of social media influencers who we believe they follow, and we'll tell them what to say. So they're buying influencers to basically influence the population, who they believe is too ignorant to find out the truth for themselves. Bigotry of low expectations. The council's communication system also plans to recruit community groups and news outlets for communities of color to help in the communication. Some activists in Minneapolis expressed worries about the plan to hire influencers, telling news outlets that the community members may doubt any city-funded person. And that's exactly what I'm saying. How can you trust somebody who's paid by the government to push out a message? Again, the Ministry of Truth's mouthpiece, you cannot trust them, because they are being paid to tell you what the government wants to tell you. Or they are being paid to tell you what the government only wants you to hear. And if they believe you're too ignorant to look for the truth yourself, well, are you going to believe exactly what they are telling you, or are you going to do the homework to find out for yourself if you are being spoon-fed another lie from these Democrats? And I will say this. I wonder if they're going to put out in the news saying, "Hey, we don't think this murder charge is going to stick, because that controversial knee hold that basically Derek Chauvin held George Floyd in was a department sanctioned tactic." So you can say he acted in reckless regard, right? The dude is a butthole. That it Brit like stop right there. Dude is a butthole. But to convict him of murder, it's going to be a tall order because once you watch the extended video with George Floyd, the 8 minutes or the 15 minutes before that 8 minute video, you can see where basically they were being extremely nice to Mr. Floyd. And even then, looking through police policy, they did everything by the book. So it's going to be hard to press charges for murder. That's why I believe manslaughter might be on the table, but it's even hard to say that, especially when he had that many drugs in his system. It's an unpopular take, but I don't think murder is going to stick, and I feel like there's going to be more fiery, peaceful protests throughout the city of Minneapolis. Let's jump over to Fox News. Trump says he requested 10,000 National Guard troops at the Capitol on the day of the riot. But before I get to the story, why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please go to notcensoredyet.com and have a look around. So let's get to the story. Former President Donald Trump told Fox News late Sunday that he expressed concern over the crowd size near the Capitol days before last month's deadly riots and personally requested 10,000 National Guard troops be deployed in response. Trump told the Next Revolution with Steve Hilton that his team alerted the Department of Defense days before the rally that crowds might be larger than the anticipated, might be larger than anticipated, and 10,000 National Guardsmen should be ready to deploy. He said that, from what he understands, the warning was passed along to the leaders at the Capitol, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and he heard that the request was rejected because these leaders did not like the optics of 10,000 troops at the Capitol. This is what I've been saying all along, folks. One of my first videos was actually questioning why Mayor Bowser denied these troops. Why did the Capitol Police deny so many troops to be there? So you have an event where Alex Jones was talking about, and you can say he says whatever. The dude is sometimes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Sometimes he's nails it on the head. Sometimes he's just bananas, right? However, he claimed it was going to be the 10 million MAGA march. 10 million people. So imagine if you only had 10% of the people show up. That's still a million people. Imagine if you only had 1% show up. That's still 100,000 folks. So even if you only had 100,000 there, people think there was 1.3 million. There was barely any police presence. How are you going to stop something? Because these bad behaviors, and I believe I used this analogy, it's kind of like a herd of cows, right? You spook one, and by spook one is you have one start doing things they're not supposed to be doing, and then you're going to create a stampede. They're all going to be taking part in that action, or they're all going to follow along because they're going to go, oh, are we doing this? Okay. Oh, we're going to the Capitol. All right, let's go into the Capitol. Especially when some of them were just let in. So now you have President Trump saying, hey, I requested 10,000 troops and it got denied somewhere. So there needs to be a full investigation. Right now, they only want to investigate Republicans. They only want to investigate anybody who is not a Democrat. But they need to investigate who knew what and when. Because the only way to get to the bottom of this is to find out who dropped the ball. Somebody dropped the ball. If what Donald Trump is saying is accurate, as in, hey, I requested 10,000 troops to be there, and it was denied due to optics. Somebody denied it. Who denied it? Why did they deny it? Did they really deny it due to optics? Because now it's found out that you have CNN and NBC paying domestic terrorists to breach the Capitol. Who else was paid to breach the Capitol, and by whom? That's questions that need to be answered, because if it turns out that, yes, Trump supporters were there, but then you had outside agitators also there, then who's really to blame? Who was pulling the strings? And we need to find out that answer. The only way for the country to move on, and the only way for Republicans to feel comfortable about not being drone striked in their home in the United States of America, because that has been proposed on MSNBC already, is to get to the bottom of it. Because guess what? Not everybody who voted for Trump supported what happened on the Capitol. Actually, the majority of people, like the vast majority, the 99.99% of people who voted for Trump disapproved of what happened on January 6th. But they still want to find out how that was allowed to happen. Continuing with the story, Pelosi's office and the Defense Department did not immediately respond to an email inquiry from Fox News. Trump told Steve Hilton, the show's host, that he hated to see what unfolded on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol. Much of what led to the riot at the Capitol remains a mystery. Last week, former Capitol Police Chief, basically they're going over the testimony of where people were just pointing fingers at each other. No one still knows what happened. People were saying, oh, this happened then. And then basically they would come back and say, well, this didn't really happen at that time. Are you sure it didn't happen later or earlier? And then people are arguing about what time they had conversations as to when to call in reinforcements. So there's still a lot of questions. People don't even know what happened on January 6th. I'm talking about things that happened on January 5th, 4th, 3rd. You know, the few days leading up to January 6th, where you would have a intelligence brief, a risk assessment, because that's what you would do. You would have a force security brief, or security force brief, and basically say, hey, we expect, according to flights and according to hotel rentals, because all these intelligence agencies in Washington, D.C. have information on that, especially when the president's going to be there, because they need to know what's going on. They need to know a kind of a guesstimate who's going to be there, where they're coming from, and how many are going to be there. So they go, hey, all the hotels are booked. All the flights are booked. Oh, we have all this incoming traffic, we believe. Perhaps we're going to have a lot of people here. We need to have ground troops here to ensure nothing gets out of hand, because if something gets out of hand and we're underprepared, it's going to take us time to react. And when you're dealing with the president, you're dealing with the Capitol building, you don't want to have to react. You'd rather be proactive than reactive, because it's always quicker when you're proactive. You're always quicker when you're ready, but when you're caught off guard and you're pushed back onto your heels, you might just land flat on your butt. All right, let's jump to the last story from Alan Wong. New: China told the U.S. that the annual COVID-19 testing given to American diplomats was an error and will exempt them from the practice after Washington complained. So now that Joe Biden is president of the United States of America, China knows that they're the alpha dogs and forced Americans into a position of submission and swabbed their butts to check them for COVID as they entered China. And not only that, but Japan also seeks out that China stop using anal swabs to test Japanese citizens for the coronavirus, because the procedures is causing patients psychological pain. That's right, folks. The world is standing up to China. They're tired of China sticking things in their butt like a bunch of aliens. And why are they doing it? Well, because they think that the anal swab, I did a video on this. They believe the anal swab test can still trace or detect traces of COVID-19 stuck in people's stool. But not only that, but it's hilarious that China thinks they can get away with this. And it took the diplomats to speak out about it. You have Joe Biden basically allowing them to participate in genocide, and now he's allowing his diplomats to get anal swabbed. What? Again, my last video, I'm pretty sure I asked, what did Russia have on Joe Biden? If Hunter Biden is on the take and he's receiving 10%, Russia probably knows about it. And that would probably be why Joe Biden closed down the Keystone XL pipeline, while basically allowing Russia to finish their own version of the Keystone pipeline, which will greatly benefit Russia. Excuse me. And now you have China basically committing genocide, and now basically asserting dominance over diplomats from the rest of the world and putting stuff in their butts. And now Joe Biden's still not saying anything, because it looks like, or it is a fact, that Hunter Biden still owns equity stakes in CCP-owned businesses, in which 10% still goes to the big guy. So it stands to reason, who exactly is the big guy? Why is Joe Biden refusing to stand up to these countries that he said Donald Trump was going soft on? Because actually, by all accords now, Biden is far less forceful with Russia and China than Trump ever was. Trump basically tried establishing a working relationship, because that's what you do. But there's a difference between, oh, he's a really nice guy, let's throw sanctions on them, as opposed to saying, oh, that guy's a jerk. We're going to look the other way as they're committing mass genocide, or we're going to look the other way as they suppress evidence. We're going to look the other way and destroy our economy and allow their economy to thrive. Big difference between the two policies. So that's going to be it for today, unless the world starts to burn. And if it does, I'll be here to talk about it. So see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.